Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Arguing with death would be an interesting conversation. Or maybe not. Maybe it would be very predictable. Most people probably say, please don't take me. Please give me more time. Or don't hurt me. Forgive me of all the wrong things that I have done. Or maybe a little bit more like sibling rivalry, saying, it wasn't me, it wasn't my fault, he did it. In verse 20 of Bhagavad Gita, which started last session with saying Bhagavad Gita Kinchitadita, the study of the Bhagavad Gita helps us in gaining that state of enlightenment where we're reveling in the truth. In verse number 20 of Bhagavad Gita, we saw the beginning of it last week, Bhagavad Gita Kinchitadita, to study a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita. Ganga Jala Lava Kanika Pita, to drink just a little bit of the water of the Ganga. Sakrute Piyena Murari Samarcha, to worship Lord Murari, which is Krishna. And when we do all of this, Kriyate Tasye Yamena Nacharcha, then we do not have any argument with Lord Death, or you could say any conversation with Lord Death. Because if we're able to do all of these, then we go beyond death. We saw the Bhagavad Gita and the importance of it last week. The second line is to be able to drink a sip of Ganga water. It's not referring to the physical water of the river that flows from the Himalayas. Symbolically, River Ganga is the flow of this knowledge of the scriptures, but very often it's also described as the flow of devotion. So many great saints and sages sitting on the banks offering their prayers charge the water with their love for the Supreme, and that devotion flows through the river. Also, it is believed in the Puranic stories that when the Lord had taken a humongous form to step on all the three worlds, all the devatas in the heaven poured water to wash his feet, and that water became the river Ganga. The water of their worship and their love became the river Ganga. To take a sip of that devotion is what's being referred to in this verse. When we let our hearts be filled with love, we are transported to feel His grace, and then to worship. When we talk about worship, it's not the ritualistic puja that we see or doing the arti. Worship, as described in the scriptures, is to serve mankind. This is considered the highest worship. Krishna himself explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. There is a beautiful story of a monk living in a monastery where they had a very rigid routine for the day and a very austere life. The monk had sat down, and after many, many years, in his meditation, he was blessed with this beautiful vision of the Lord. He could see the smiling face of the Lord, he could hear the flute of the Lord, and he was filled with raptures of joy. And as he was enjoying this vision, he heard the temple bells. In the routine of the monastery, it was now time to go and serve. There was a hospital nearby, and sometimes they used to have to go and help with the patients. Or sometimes they would help in the kitchen with cleaning up the dishes and preparing the meals. Or sometimes they had to just simply sweep out the courtyard and pull out the weeds in the garden. But this was the hour where they had to leave their rooms and go and do some kind of physical work. He sat there thinking, it's taken me years to get this vision. Do I really want to leave it? Do I want to get up and go and do something else? Wouldn't it be much better if I just stayed here and continued to enjoy this blissful vision? But something tugged at his heart, and he knew the right decision was to go and attend to his duties. And so he did. A few hours passed, he came back to his room, he showered, cleaned up, and sat back down to meditate. And the moment he closed his eyes, the vision appeared again, bright and beautiful. He was so pleasantly delighted and surprised. And even though he had no words, there was a question in his heart. How? How is it possible that the vision is continuing even after being disrupted? And the Lord answered his question by saying, if you had stayed to enjoy the vision, I would have disappeared. It's only because you went to serve, which is true worship, that I have stayed and waited for you. Very often it is explained by great saints and sages that what does the Lord need? Absolutely nothing. And so how can we possibly serve him? He's perfect. But we can serve him by helping him do what he wants to do. Help everyone else. And so this verse of Bhagavad Gita tells us to study and to understand a little bit more from the Bhagavad Gita, to love and to fill our hearts with love, like the river Ganga, and to serve in this world all those around us. And if we do this, even just a little bit of all of this, then we no longer have any argument with death, because death no longer has a hold over us. We become completely free from the cycle of birth and death. We become completely free of death itself. Are we stepping in the right direction to reach this ultimate goal? Think about it.
For more in-depth talks from Swamini Supriyananda and other excellent teachers of the Chinmaya mission, you can subscribe to chinmayaclicks.com. You can also visit the Chinmaya channel on YouTube for bite-sized inspiration and discourses on in-depth Vedantic texts. To know about local classes, activities, and upcoming retreats, visit www.chinmayamission.com. And see you on the next podcast.